Hello and welcome to the Basscast podcast. I am Evan.
And I am Alex.
So, what are we talking about today? Well, Alex and I went and saw what we like to call a full-fledged Rezz show. Well, a full-fledged show. We like to call them full-fledged shows. Basically, what that is for us is when an artist or a DJ brings all of the equipment for the whole concert. So, if you ever go to a venue where behind the stage they've already got like a giant screen or like jumbotrons or whatever, LED screens, and they've already got lots of like strobes and stuff, and one of your favorite DJs comes in town and plays there, we don't really consider that a truly full-fledged show. What we consider a full-fledged show is when a artist comes into town, brings a ton of equipment, basically probably builds the entire stage, the whole setup, and puts on a show. Like, obviously, the openers don't usually use all of the equipment. I don't think I've ever seen a full-fledged show where the openers used all the equipment that the actual main person used. But anyways, that's kind of just like a quick recap on what we call a full-fledged show. So, that being said, we saw a full-fledged Rezz show. It was outdoors. It was a gorgeous day.
Yeah.
It was right next to a lake, so we had a nice breeze. And of course, this is down in Orlando, Florida. This was in January. This happened back in January. And of course, in January in Florida, it is gorgeous weather if you're used to cold weather. So for those of us that live in Florida, it was a little chilly, but if you don't live in Florida, then it was probably perfect weather, like perfect rave weather, I would say. So before we get to Rezz, let's talk about everything we saw. So we saw in total 7 sets. What time did this start at 5?
Yeah, I think it started around 5:15 or something like that.
I think it started at 5, and we got there about 5:30-ish.
Yeah, I know we got like a half hour into this first set.
Because we got a really good parking spot. So anyways, when we got there, it was the opening set. The very first set was a duo group called Yokai, Yokai. And we only saw about half of their set. Basically, Yokai is a group. It's just 2 guys. I think they're from Orlando. I think they're actually local to Orlando. They are. I mean, as far as visuals go, they mostly just had their logo up on the screen. And of course, at this point, the sun is still out, so you can't do a ton with the visuals. But so Yokai, in their logo, they have implemented one of those Chinese structures. I don't actually know what the name of it is, but it's one of those wooden Chinese structures that you might see, like maybe if you go to like an Asian restaurant or something. I don't actually even know if there's an actual name for it, but either way, they've kind of got that incremented into their logo, and that was the main visuals that they had as far as when they were actually playing. What they were playing was mostly house. I think it was pretty much house the entire time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's house too.
I to be honest, I felt it was a little repetitive. But again, like, Alex and I are not the best people to be judging like house sets just because it's just not our thing. You know, I don't hate house music, and this was not like hard or deep or dark house. This was more like dance house, I would say. I
would say more like house that you would play in a club.
I would say house you would play in a club for like ages 15 and below. Like, I wouldn't even say a normal nightclub. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't. Well, I mean, since I don't listen to house that much, I wouldn't really know how to justify that. I mean, just listening to a straight house set, it doesn't really make me think of a certain age group. I mean, you probably listen to more house sets than I have, so I wouldn't know how to justify that.
I don't know, but I for some reason I can imagine that music being played on a cruise ship, like in the nightclub of the cruise ship, but like for like the teen nightclub.
The teen club?
Yeah, the teen club.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could see that. I can most definitely see that, but I could still see it being played for, maybe. I mean, I guess I can understand why you would think it would be mainly like for a late night teen club, but I don't know if I would like just be exclusive for just a teen club. I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like it could be for. It seems like it could be for also adult clubs.
Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe I'm just being stupid. I don't know. Maybe that was a stupid remark, but either way, I mean, again, Alex and I are not really aficionados of house music, and this was it was basically dance house music pretty much the whole time.
Right.
And I hate to like they did a good job. Like, they're up there and they're mixing house songs together very well, but it's just not our cup of tea, unfortunately. And besides Drezo, it was kind of weird that they were there, I would say, because nobody else that played on this particular night is known for playing house music, besides Drezo, obviously. And
right.
Drezo, I think the only reason Drezo was there is because Rezz is known as more of a dark, like a dark bass artist, and Drezo is known for like dark house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thoughts on that. But anyways, yeah, that was the opening set, and of course we missed like half of that, so we apologize, Yokai. Again, I didn't mean anything like, rude or mean or anything. But, like there are lots of people that are into that particular subgenre of house music, and it's just not us. But, the people that were there, they definitely had they definitely had a little crowd going there at the beginning towards the end of their set. Of course, obviously this is the very first set, so there's not a ton of people there yet. But the people out the front were definitely enjoying themselves. I mean, we were enjoying the music as well and watching everybody, but yeah. That was Yokai. Anything else on Yokai?
No, well, just that, again, just to reiterate, it wasn't house music, more particularly for me. I just don't really care to listen to house music for more than, about 1 second. And,
wow.
It's just my opinion. I mean, a lot of people love house music because it's the perfect BPM just to listen to, but listening to it for about 30 minutes, I just can't really take it that much. I mean, I need a change of pace of BPM, whether you're just going from, like house to drum and bass or whatever. Like, I just need a change of BPM is what I need.
Maybe I have a theory. Maybe we are not huge house fans because we can't dance. We can't shuffle. Well, I'm trying to figure out how to shuffle.
It's more entertaining watching people shuffle than listening to house music, in my opinion.
I would. Oh my goodness, that's actually a really good. That is actually a really good thought, because it is a lot of fun to watch people shuffle when house music is being played. That is an awesome comment.
I think watching people shuffle, it makes house music a million times better.
I think I agree with you. Holy cow, I've never even thought of that, and I think you're 100% right. At least as far as our opinion goes. I think you're exactly right. Like, house music is definitely better if you can watch like somebody shuffling. Yeah. And like some of the people,
it's like your own up close kind of visual, you know what I mean?
Exactly. That is I love that. That is so awesome that you said that. All right, so that's what you have to look forward to next time. If you're a bass music fan out there and the only music being played is house music, watch.
And you're having to wait for like the better sets, yeah.
Wow, dude, better sets. Wow. Don't listen to me, Yokai.
No hate on Yokai, but just because of our preference and our bias towards bass music,
Yeah. And again, and like there's lots of people out there that love that type of music, but Yokai did a good job. Just it's just not our cup of tea as far as what they're playing. I followed them on SoundCloud. I have yet to go through and listen to some of the stuff they have. They have lots of mixes. They actually played at Halloween last year, which
Really?
is yeah. So they're getting into the big, they're getting into some of the bigger festivals. But yeah, could be a name, could be an upcoming name. I guess they're both from Orlando. But yeah, that's Yokai. Next up was a very big turn from house music. It was a guy from Jacksonville. I'm trying to see if I can find his actual name. I'm not seeing it. His stage name is Swarm. And like I said, this was a huge transition from, kind of cheerful, upbeat house music to Swarm. Swarm plays dark mid-tempo. And I have to admit, this was one of my favorite sets of the night.
Yeah, same for me. Obviously, I think the reason why it was one of the best sets is, we're going from house music immediately to a whole different type of genre of music. And
a genre that we both enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's that, but I think it's also because we did not know what to expect from Swarm. If I recall correctly, I think I have a few Swarm songs here and there saved, like either in SoundCloud or Spotify, but for the most part, I didn't know much about Swarm. I think I had heard of him. But after this, Swarm is definitely worth a look up, especially if you like music such as 178L, and you can even throw Rezz in that list as well. But it's basically dark mid tempo. It's almost like, do you know who? Figure, right? Like Figure.
Right.
Figure is kind of like horror dubstep.
Yeah.
And you've also got other artists like Two-Faced and Code Pandorum, which I would consider, like, if you could create even more and more subgenres, I would put like Figure, Two-Faced, Code Pandorum all in a like horror dubstep group. In addition to that, I would also put Swarm in a horror mid-tempo group. I think that's a pretty decent generalization of that. But either way, Swarm is definitely worth a look up. And he's got over 5,500 followers on SoundCloud as of right now. And I think Swarm was one of the artists that actually did retweet us and got us some views on Twitter as far as what we put out on our joint Twitter. And so, yeah, I was definitely impressed with Swarm. I was thoroughly enjoying the hard and dark bass that he was throwing down while he was up there. If I remember, I think he played a little bit of trap music and a little bit of dubstep as well. He kind of threw that in there in the mix. But yeah, Swarm was awesome, and Swarm really upped the visuals as far as compared to what Yokai had, because Yokai was just basically, they just had their logo up there, and then Swarm came up, and Swarm's logo, by the way, is pretty cool as well. It's kind of similar to Slander's, if that's any visual representation.
Yeah, that's what I kind of noticed about Swarm's logo, is that it was somewhat representative of Slander's, and also throughout the night, speaking of visuals, throughout the night, I kind of did notice that for each set, they did use some of the same visuals for some people. I don't know.
They did. They definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah.
They definitely did that, but Swarm at least had his logo up there being implemented in the visuals,
right?
Which is a big deal for me. I don't know why. I'm a logo guy. I love logos, and so when I see an artist playing up there, I want to see your logo being implemented in the screen visuals somehow. And they did that with Swarm. And on top of that, Swarm's got a cool logo. So props to that. Again, I don't know if I'm taking this way out of context as far as the fact that if a logo's cool, then I'm going to like the DJ more. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but I will give Swarm an A on his logo. Good logo. And good visuals as far as this concert goes.
Yeah,
I feel like
Swarm.
he's only got 13 tracks on SoundCloud, it looks like, as of right now. I think Swarm's going to be doing more stuff later on. I could see him possibly blowing up. Do you remember, there's another artist similar to Swarm. Do you remember seeing Purge?
I mean, I remember the name.
We saw it before Slander. One time.
Oh, okay. So going back that far, I mean, I somewhat remember, but not too well.
Okay, well, that's fine. Either way, Purge is another kind of dark bass artist, and Swarm kind of reminded me of a mid-tempo Purge. So if you're familiar with Purge, that could be kind of a comparison, an artist comparison. But either way, I really enjoyed Swarm's set. This was one of my favorite sets of the night. I'll just go ahead and say that right now. And I want to point out, Alex, that at the end of the episode, I want us to go through and rank what our favorite sets were in order. So just be thinking about that. I don't think I told you that before. But just be...
Including Rezz?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that was Swarm. And Swarm started at about 6:30ish. So by the time Swarm was deep into his set, it was dark. So at this point, we've got all the visuals going. After Swarm, it was supposed to be Bleep Bloop, but they had, I think this was kind of an impromptu set. They had a three-way B2B with 3 local artists. I believe they're all local to Orlando. We had Foreign Suspects, which is 2 guys, I'm pretty sure. We had SkyHye, which is, I think he does future bass. He might also do some stuff similar to Peekaboo. And then we also had an artist, Two Kind, which I think Two Kind, of those 3 artists and artist groups, I think Two Kind has the most followers. I could be wrong on that. Two Kind might be the most, the highest chance of people knowing who they are or who he is. So yeah, Two Kind, of the 3 B2B, Two Kind is the one that you're probably most likely to have heard of. Two Kind has over 5,000 followers on SoundCloud. I don't know if I have ever heard any music from Two Kind or SkyHye. I know I've heard music from Foreign Suspects. And I think Foreign Suspects I think they won a remix contest for the upcoming Forbidden Kingdom festival, bass festival down here in Florida. I think they won that contest, and they've been kind of getting some publicity through that. Either way, this was a 3-way B2B. I think it was kind of impromptu because they said something about Bleep Bloop was having some technical difficulties, or somebody was having technical difficulties. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure what happened was that Bleep Bloop was having travel issues or something like that, and he was late getting to the venue, I think, and so they basically just had to do that 3-way B2B to stall time for Bleep Bloop. So I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
So it was technically an impromptu B2B, but I mean, I have no complaints because we hadn't, again, I hate, favoring certain genres over other genres, but we hadn't really heard any dubstep at this point, and they started throwing down some hard dubstep and some songs that we had heard as well, which I know is really important to you. Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed that B2B. Again, that was Foreign Suspects, SkyHye, and Two Kind. And that was good. And like I said, they threw in some hard trap music, some dark trap music. I remember some peekaboo-ish type music, which I have no idea how to even generalize that genre. Was that freeform bass? I don't know. There's so many genres, it's hard to generalize. But if you know who Peekaboo is, similar music to that. They played some of that, and they did throw down some dubstep as well. So that was, one more time, I know I said it like 1,000 times. Foreign Suspects, B2B, SkyHye, B2B, Too Kind. That was good. Next up was a more familiar name. I would assume more people know who this guy is. This is Bleep Bloop. Bleep Bloop is... I don't think there's a better artist comparison to Bleep Bloop besides Space Jesus.
Yeah,
So,
I would agree with that.
and if you've seen Space Jesus' show, this is my opinion on Space Jesus. I've seen Space Jesus at an indoor venue, and I've seen Space Jesus at an outdoor venue. I thought the outdoor Space Jesus concert was way better than the indoor one. I don't know if it has to do with the type of bass music that he's playing, but maybe it's just better if it's like more open. I don't know. Like maybe that type of bass music shouldn't be, confined to like an indoor venue. I don't know. But either way, Bleep Bloop basically is very similar to Space Jesus, and I think the only way to describe the genre, I've kind of looked into this a little bit the other day, I think people are just basically calling it space bass.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar, it sounds like dubstep, but it's slower than dubstep. Like the beat is considerably slower. Like you can tell it's not true dubstep. It's not fast enough, but it does have the same beat, like the same beat as dubstep. It doesn't have the same rhythm, not the same rhythm speed, but it is the same beat. So Bleep Bloop, I definitely enjoyed Bleep Bloop's visuals. It was, for the most part, it was black and white. Do you remember like Bleep? Okay, like Space Jesus's visuals have tons of color in them, and they're they're pretty trippy as far as like what you're actually looking at. Bleep Bloop, I would say, was very similar to that, except there was no color. It was all black and white. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and to go along with the trippiness, with it being flashy, and that's what I can remember from his visuals, was that it was just, his name and, some of the other visuals that were playing for some of the other sets, and just those visuals being flashy.
Yeah.
I can remember.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like he kind of implements the whole like computery type of like pixelated visuals that, like a image will flash on the screen and it'll go away, being like pixelated out. If that, if anybody listening to this can visualize that. But again, like Bleep Bloop's music that he's playing is just like hard, rough bass music, and I think it's space bass. It's so hard to describe this genre because if you know the artists that play it, which is I think we did an episode on this once, but the artists that play is like the G Jones and Liquid Stranger and EPROM and Sayer, and that group, like Space Jesus is in that group. Bleep Bloop is pretty much a part of that group, and I mean it is great music. I like that music to drive to. Like yeah. I love driving to that type of music. However, this was not my favorite set of the night. I feel like I just, again, I can't explain it. Like the Space Jesus concert, when it was outside, it was better. But
do you want to say that at the end of the podcast or when we're ranking?
No. Oh yeah, no, I'm not ranking. I'm just saying, like,
okay, I'm sorry.
Like the whole time that I was watching, the whole time we were watching the Bleep Bloop set, I was thinking to myself, this would be better indoors, which is the exact opposite what I think of Space Jesus. So it makes no sense in my mind. I can't work it out, like, I can't work it out which is better indoors, which is better outdoors, or if one is even better indoors or outdoors. So I don't know, but yeah, as far as Bleep Bloop's music that he played, it just was not 100% doing it for me. And like that, like that genre of music that they play, it's slowed down, so it's like not as easy to like. You can't really headbang to it. I mean, you can, but it's like it's too slow. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
Like dubstep is great for headbanging because that speed is like a comfortable speed to go back and forth with your head and your neck, and the speed that Space Jesus and Bleep Bloop are using, it's just like too slow. Like again, the music is so fun to listen to, and I could listen to Bleep Bloop music like working at work or driving around. I could listen to that all day. But as far as listening to it live, where you're in a situation with other people dancing with you, it's just not the best in my opinion. I'm sorry to say that. Like, I'm not trying to like discredit Bleep Bloop at all. It's just not the best in my opinion. And again, maybe Bleep Bloop in a indoor venue would be a whole lot more fun. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. But I mean, that was basically my take on it.
Right, and to go off of that, I would say that I thoroughly enjoyed his set. From what I can remember of it. So far, just hearing that kind of a music live, that type of Space Jesus Bleep Bloop music, I think it's pretty good to listen to live. Now, again, going off of what you've already said, it's not good music to headbang to, which is what I usually like to do. But if you can, if you can hear the beat and like know when it's coming, I guess then you'll know how to headbang to it. But like you said, it's kind of that freeform bass where they just kind of randomly put in the beats to make it go along with their vision of what the song is. So I think it's still good to listen to live, but again, it's not that good of headbanging music like you're saying.
So maybe I shouldn't even be thinking about headbanging during a Bleep Bloop set. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that I think you can headbang if you can find, if you can predict mainly where the bass beats are going to be.
In the songs or in the set?
Right. Mainly, I guess mainly for the drops as well.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard genre to explain, but like the music, just to listen to music is awesome. I could listen to that slow bassy type of music if I was doing something where I just needed EDM music to do something. But as far as live, I don't know. I just am not the biggest fan ever. I'm not going to turn down another Bleep Bloop another Bleep Bloop concert or set or anything. I'm just saying, like, that's just my thoughts on it. And I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. It seems like a bass music crowd is not as into a Bleep Bloop or Space Jesus set as they would be a dubstep set. Am I crazy for saying that?
No, because I would agree with that 100%. It's the same way as if a bass crowd would be for a house set, like for the Yokai set. It's granted they were the very first opener of the night, and there weren't a lot of people there. So, yeah, you had people that were shuffling and all that stuff, but like, I just think that the majority of the people in the crowd that were there for both the Bleep Bloop set and the Yokai set, they just weren't into it as much as for when, for instance, I guess, Swarm went out and that B2B2B was.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. But yeah, either way, Bleep Bloop makes extremely catchy music and great bass music. He's definitely worth a look up if you have not heard any of his music. But yeah, anyways, that's my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts. Anything else on that?
No.
All right. Next up was Drezo. Drezo is actually up to 100,000 followers on SoundCloud now, which is pretty impressive because he's been touring with. He actually toured with Datsik a while back, and that's when I first discovered Drezo. And I really enjoyed listening to his dark house music in that indoor venue. What were your thoughts on Drezo in an outdoor venue?
So again, with the house music, of course, this was more dark house and bass house kind of music, which I am more liking. Like I take a liking to that rather than just regular house music, because bass and all that. And hearing, I guess, Drezo's set for the first time, I was like really impressed.
Really?
Yes.
It's very interesting you say that. I think I was more impressed the first time I saw him than this time. That being said, though, there are several Drezo songs that really get me amped up, and he dropped all of those songs. So Drezo is one, and I know that you've touched on this before in a previous episode. When you have an artist that you really enjoy listening to, like not in a live venue, but like just around the house or like on Spotify or whatever, or on SoundCloud. If you have an artist that you really enjoy listening to, when you see them live, do you really care that you hear all those songs that you already hear at home? Or do you want to hear that artist play new music? Now, I'm sure Drezo did throw in some new music that was unreleased, but what I'm saying is all of Drezo's main hits that I think that he's most noted for, he played, which I was glad of because I like a lot of his more popular songs. So that was Drezo, and again, that's Dark House. The Drezo visuals, I think I liked Bleep Bloop's visuals more than Drezo. Drezo's visuals was like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of like different line patterns pretty much the whole time. Oh, another thing about Drezo that I forgot. Did you notice that he had 2 red lights on his DJ table the entire time? On himself in the DJ table?
You mean like shined on him?
Yes.
Yes, I did notice that. There are other DJs that I know that do that specifically. Like, for instance, I don't think we mentioned it in our Seven Lions podcast, but I'm pretty sure from behind the 2 openers from AU5 and I can never remember the second guy's name.
Jason Ross.
Yeah, Jason Ross. From behind them, there was a light shining on from behind them, and also on Seven Lions. So I do know of other DJs that do that specifically, just to, I guess, to have an ambient look for them and the visuals.
I think it's a theme, because I know I've seen different album arts from Drezo where pretty much the entire thing is black except for his logo. Like the whole album art will be black, gray, and white, and then his logo's in red. So I think it's just kind of a theme for him. I don't remember what you're talking about with Jason Ross, or was it AU5?
It was I'm pretty sure it's for all 3 of them, for all 3 of AU5, Jason Ross, and Seven Lions. The way the stage was set up, so you remember how they had where they have the decks, and then they have the front screen, and then behind them was the main screen that Seven Lions used for his set, right?
Yeah.
So behind them, where we couldn't see it, you could see a light shining from behind them.
Oh, and it was like the outline. I know.
Yeah, you could see like a silhouette. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
it's kind of like that. But I understand, like, for specifically Drezo, it was hanging from the top of the stage.
It was above him. It was above him, hanging down and aimed down.
Right.
But
and
yeah,
I'm saying like there have been other DJs that I've seen videos of or seen live that do that specifically.
Right. Yeah, so that was Drezo, and again, I've already seen Drezo before. Drezo's definitely worth a watch if he comes through your town, or if he's traveling with somebody through your town. It was your first time to see Drezo live, and I think I introduced you to some of his music. Did you like recognize any of the songs that he played?
outside of some of the songs that I've heard from sets outside of his set, uh, maybe a couple, but not too many.
Right.
So
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so that was Drezo, and Drezo was third to last. Next up was a big name that I have been waiting to see for a while now. This is Ekali. Ekali was next, and I thoroughly enjoyed Ekali's set. Thoroughly enjoyed all the music that he played. His visuals were fantastic. He and again this does not matter, but I have to say it. He implemented his logo beautifully with the visuals. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I do remember him.
Loved that.
Because it kept repeating itself after it said Ekali, Ekali, you know.
Yeah, but there was points where like he had the visuals like kind of going through different lands, and I think the different lands were
right.
Yeah, it was like the different lands were his album arts that he's released.
Right.
But it would like go through the triangle and the A of Ekali, and like it was awesome. As far as the visuals go. And let me just tell you, the music, his playlist alone, I thought, was one of the best playlists I've ever heard. I cannot explain it, but he would play a song and I would think to myself, that is a perfect spot to put that song. And then he played another one that was like an older one that like I hadn't heard in a while, and I was thinking, wow, that's really good. And then he'd, drop another dubstep banger, and then he'd go back to future bass, and he was all over the place. He was throwing trap songs like every 5 songs. It was fantastic. Like, I love that. Like, I love it when I hear a set and it's just everything. Give me everything. Give me a smorgasbord of EDM. That was what Ekali was, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, same for me. I think I particularly like to see, for instance, just to refer back to Seven Lions and Millennium sets that we've seen, I think seeing a future bass artist live is maybe the best kind of set to see live, that if you're more interested in a bass DJ, because I think that they play the most kind of genres of music in the bass category that are out there.
You think that they go all over the board the most, like
right.
The future bass artists,
right? Because I mean, look at Millennium. He's played his future bass songs. He's played dubstep songs. He has played trap songs. I'm pretty sure that they've played, even for Seven Lions, he's played a trance song. And the list could go on and on. But I want to say, from my experience seeing live sets, that future-based artists are probably the most diverse, is what I would say, in playing in like the music selections of their set.
I hate to say this, but they probably have to be. They probably have to be diverse in all the stuff they're playing, because they're like I've said this before. I don't think future bass music is all that great live when there's like loud subs and bassy speakers, because I think it messes with the actual sound of what a normal future bass song sounds like. Like when I listen to future bass through my headphones, it's perfect because I think there's a better, like, everything is equalized better. Like the whether it's like the high pitched vocals or high pitched synths, as well as the bass. I think everything is just equalized better if you're listening to future bass like on your headphones or in the car or something like that. When you're at a festival or a concert, especially one like this where there is an emphasis on bass, I just think that like the bass, there's too much bass and it overpowers all the other aspects of the future bass song. And I don't think future bass is great live when the whole setup is meant for bass music. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of understand what you're saying. It's like kind of comparing, bringing for the dubstep artists. So like for instance, Excision, I know always brings this kind of sound system. Like he always brings the PK sound system because that's the exact kind of sound system that you want for hard bass dubstep.
Right. Yes.
And bringing that kind of sound system with a future bass set, it's not going to sound as great because when it comes to future bass and hearing it live, you want to hear all the aspects instead of just the bass aspect of the song live.
Exactly.
And I understand that, and I highly understand that.
We touched on this in our EDC Orlando thing review because we saw Griffin, and I thought Griffin's set was good, but he played a majority of future bass music, which I mean it's expected because that's the type of music Griffin plays. However, this was all on the Circuit Ground stage, which is predominantly bass music. And like maybe I'm looking way too deep into this. It's just I just don't think it's a great mix to have super bassy speakers trying to play future bass. Again, all that being said, Ekali was fantastic. I loved Ekali's set. Loved Ekali's set. The music, the visuals, everything.
Yeah, same for me. I think I will just leave it at this, that I think of the openers, his was my favorite.
Oh, wow, you're already ranking.
I don't want to get too far into
you can't rank
but
until...
I would just go ahead and say that.
Wow, okay.
I'll just go ahead and say that. Just a little spoiler. Just a little spoiler for what's coming.
Okay. Anything else on Ekali?
No, just that his set was probably the best out of the openers.
Well, you are really emphasizing that, aren't you?
Yep, I really am.
So next up was Space Mom herself, Mrs. Rezz. And by the way, shout out to Rezz. She just got the most gorgeous Audi R8 ever. What's she called? The Rezzmobile?
Yeah, I think so.
That thing looks really nice. I think it's like a 2018 or 2019 Audi R8. But either way, that was this was what we consider a full-fledged Rezz set. So now we can add Rezz to our leaderboard. We'll get back to that later. First, give me your thoughts on Rezz. Talk to me.
Okay, so after seeing her at EDC and then going from that set, which was 2 years ago, more like a year and a half ago, and then going to this set, which is a night set with her own stage, I say that this set that we just saw in January was a million bajillion gazillion times better than the one at EDC. Now, granted, the reason why I say that is it was her own stage. The music was way louder for her, and which is always a plus for me. And she played. I would say that she played the majority of all the songs that she did at EDC, plus all the songs from her EPs that happened and her album that happened in 2018. Plus, she played some other songs, including our number one song of 2018, which was super, super hype.
Oh, I was not expecting that. Yeah, she did drop Pulsar Beam, which I think we went nuts.
Oh my gosh. As soon as I heard that first note, I was like, Pulsar Beam!
I don't think I recognized it until after you yelled that.
Yeah.
She played a lot of music from her Certain Kind of Magic CD, which came out last year for sure.
No, it came out last year. Oh yeah, somewhere around middle of the year, I think.
You know, I would say Rezz is a truly unique EDM artist. Because, is she the biggest female EDM artist? No.
Biggest following? I would say biggest.
Her fan base. Her fan base. When you talk about her fan base, her fan base is called. Well, hang on. First of all, let's get through like what all of our thoughts were as far as like the actual set, because like we said, she played a lot of music that she's known for, which is pulsating bass type mid-tempo music. Is that a good description?
Yeah, I would say so.
Sometimes sometimes her songs sound simple, in my opinion. However, I think Rezz does a great job of taking simplicity to the max and making it actually sound really good. Like, take one of our favorite Rezz songs, Edge. Edge is actually a very simple song if you think about it. But and it's a little repetitive, but if you listen to Edge, it has a hard drop, but it has a good presence about it, in the sense of, like, if you show that song to someone that's not really a normal EDM fan, they're going to stop whatever they're doing whenever they hear that drop, and they're going to look over and be like, what is this? It's kind of like it's a good punch. It's a good bass punch, I would say. And Rezz does a good job of that, because sometimes her intros are, nothing like what her drops sound like. If you've ever noticed that. And a lot of her intros, I think, kind of sound similar. But, yeah. Go ahead.
So, yeah, to go off of that, so, just a little side note, what you were just saying about the intros. Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you on that. They do have that same feeling and kind of same, not necessarily like same notes particularly, but it's always like, as soon as you hear the opening, you automatically know it's a Rezz song because it's a Rezz song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, but honestly, as of right now, I can't really name another DJ that does that similarly. I don't know if you know of another one that kind of does that. It kind of has like that same kind of sound that they go about for all their songs.
Well, I mean, a lot of artists have, a type of sound or theme that you can kind of tell, okay, I think I'm about to listen to a Rezz song.
Yeah, I guess what I mean is like distinct, like Rezz.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of sounds that are distinct to specific artists, but Rezz is definitely up there in the sense that it's easy to tell a Rezz song because it is unique. Like Rezz's music is very, very unique, I would say, and that's a good thing. That's obviously a good thing, and I think that has propelled her to be one of the biggest female DJs. Maybe the biggest female bass music DJ. Maybe.
Possibly, because the only other, before we talk about other female DJs, I want to say that so far her set was great. Loved all the song choices because, basically it was all of her songs from like the past 3 years, and then Pulsar Beam, and it was just a great set overall. Love the visuals. It was I noticed that it was some of the same visuals that were at her EDC set back in 2017 when we saw her, like the hypnotic tunnel looking kind of visual. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing that back at EDC, and then some of the I don't think I remember seeing at EDC, but it's like some of her where it's just like a 3D model of her just
I know what you mean. It's like
tripping out.
Yeah, it's like a close up of her with her glasses on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I definitely did notice that because I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking that I didn't see any. I had seen like videos of that on Twitter and stuff, but I did not remember seeing that at EDC Orlando 2017.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, another thing, Rezz brought out the CO2, I think, and the flamethrowers, and because I don't think anybody else had those. Like, obviously, this is the thing about having a full-fledged concert, and why you want to see a full-fledged concert is because everything on the stage is for this final act, this final set. And so, none of the there was lots of like strobes and spotlights and like the flames and all that stuff. All of that stuff had not been used up until this point. And so, of course, now that Rezz is out, she's the main act of the night. All this stuff's going to be used. So now it is technically what we call, again, a full-fledged show.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually blown away. I didn't realize that she was going to have like flames and like all that stuff. And obviously all the strobes are in sync with the music, which is a huge thumbs up for me, because for me, like when I'm watching a set, like I want to take in everything. I don't want to be on the front row head banging. Maybe, maybe if it's an artist I've already seen, maybe I'll do that. But I want to take in the entire experience. I want to hear the music. I want to see the DJ playing. I also want to see all the visuals. I want to see the entire stage. And so I think that's one main reason that you and I never get close to the front, is because I feel like you miss a lot of stuff sitting close to the front.
Right, and I mean that is the main. I think that is the main reason why we stay in the back, is because we can take it all in, like just everything, both sound and the visuals.
Yeah, something else that Rezz did that I've noticed a lot of DJs are now doing is they'll have a giant screen behind them, and then they have their DJ table, which is like, not see-through, but it's like it doesn't have a curtain in front of it. Or it doesn't have a screen in front of it. And
Right.
I've noticed a lot of DJs are now doing this. Is this like a trend? Do you know?
I don't know if it's a trend. What were you about to say?
I mean, I know Dylan Francis does it. I know there's Zomboy does it. Like a lot of artists are now doing this. When I think maybe a year or two ago, it seemed like more artists had a screen behind them and then a screen in front, like in front of their table. Their DJ table.
Right, I think it just depends on the artist's preference. Like, for instance, I know Slander does that as well, and I guess it's just a preference of the DJ,
Right.
and how they want to set up their own stage.
Well, right. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, I've noticed now that it's a trend, and it seems like more and more artists are starting to do that. So, I mean, I don't know if that's even worth mentioning, but it could be that it is a trend, and you're going to start seeing more and more artists do that, which is fine. It's whatever. But that is something that I noticed. Again, like the visuals, when everything is in sync, and this is such a huge part of Rezz's show, is the visuals, because everybody, talks about the psychedelic and like hypnotic type visuals that Rezz has at her shows. And I mean, obviously this one didn't disappoint, because she had a huge screen there, and the great visuals are in perfect sync with the music that's being played. So thumbs up to all the visuals for Rezz's show. Yeah, that was my thoughts though. Very highly enjoyed the Rezz show. If you're not even a bass music fan, I would still recommend telling you to go to a Rezz show, because I don't know if you noticed, there was a couple people around us. There's one guy that I'm pretty sure he was not an EDM fan, because like during some of the songs, like everybody was dancing, he wasn't. Like he kind of looked like he was lost, right? I don't know if you know this guy or not, but or if you remember him. But when the Rezz show started, he was definitely getting fully into it, and so I mean, maybe I'm just maybe I'm judging. I don't know. But I think a Rezz show is easy for literally anybody to get into, is what I'm trying to say. So that was Rezz, and I want to touch on two other things real quick before we rank these, because one of the great things about Rezz is her fan base. They call themselves the Cult of Rezz, and there's actually even an official Twitter page for this group. And what's kind of cool is they actually did this new concept, and they started this at the Orlando show. Basically what they decided to do is create a safe space. They called it the Cult of Rezz Safe Space, or CORSS. And what they had is they had different volunteers that were Rezz fans and part of this group. They had different volunteers that would run the tent, and basically it's a place that you can kind of like lay back and chill because, you know, obviously if you've never been to an EDM concert, a bulk of the action is happening in the giant crowd, and I mean, like, I don't think Alex and I mind like, you don't mind crowds, obviously, and I don't either, but a lot of people don't like that, and they don't want to be caught up in all that stuff. But they also want to have a place where, you know, where you can hang out and chill and talk to other people that are big Rezz fans. So, what this group, the Cult of Rezz, did is they created this, they, like, set aside a corner of the venue and set up a tent, and it was basically just what they called a safe space. And you could go there and hang out and talk to other Rezz fans, and it was all organized. It was all organized by the fan base. However, Rezz embraced it, and so I think she also had a hand in helping them set up, which again is really cool because it's always cool to see when a DJ is interacting with the fan base. I think it's a really good thing because that shows that the fan base is interested, and it shows that the DJ is interested in continuing to entertain the fan base. So that was the Cult of Rezz safe space, and we were going to go and talk to them, but the show got really crowded. This was like a very crowded show because by the time Rezz was playing, the normal crowd was like backed up way back behind even the sound booth, and the sound booth was pretty far back from the stage. So we never really had a chance to get to the safe space to talk to them. We were going to, like, because I reached out to them on Twitter and I was asking them, you know, if we could like kind of talk to them and get to know, you know, how the whole group got started and all that stuff. But we never had a chance to do that, unfortunately. But as far as I know, what they're going to do is they're going to travel around with the Rezz show. They're going to like Milwaukee and out to, I think it's Phoenix in Arizona. And whenever Rezz does shows out there, they're going to have a safe space. So this is kind of a new concept. I mean, it's not really a new concept to hang out with other fans of your favorite DJ, but it is a new concept to have this organized where it's a spot specifically meant for this kind of thing, this kind of safe space thing. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that because I thought it was a cool idea. Something else that's worth mentioning, and I completely forgot about this, we have to give a shout out to our man, a state of Florida legend. This man is a legend. His name is Mr. Clean. If you have ever heard of Mr. Clean, then shout out to you because this man basically dedicates his life to illegally recording. No, I'm just kidding. No, like honestly, if you've watched a set online of a DJ playing at either EDC Orlando or Ultra Miami or possibly even EDC Vegas, it might be credited to this guy, Mr. Clean. I am honestly I could not believe that we found him here, but I mean it makes sense that he was there, but I was so ecstatic to actually meet him because we've been watching his videos for like years, really.
Yeah, I'd say at least 2-3 years.
Like I remember in like 2015 watching like Slander at Ultra videos and stuff like that. But yeah, basically what this guy does is he brings in a GoPro and I think it's just a GoPro, maybe it's his phone or something, but he'll stand right in the center of the crowd and he'll record the full set. Now, I don't know, did you recognize him or did I recognize him?
Maybe we both did, and then I was the one that like said, you know what, I think that's him, or something like that. And you were like, you know, I was thinking that too.
Well, he like stands in the middle of the crowd, and we stand towards the back, closer to the sound booth. And so we saw him, and we were kind of asking, like, we weren't creeping, but we were kind of creeping a little bit. And so we ultimately, during the Swarm concert, because the crowd started getting thicker and thicker, we decided to go up to him and we're like, are you possibly Mr. Clean? And his name is Michael in real life. But we were like, "Are you Mr. Clean?" And then he was like, "Yes." And we were like, "Dude, you are a legend." So that was awesome to meet him. And like, I don't know, like I have to thank people like Michael, because obviously not everybody can make it to every set. There's Friday nights where I'll just watch hours and hours of like EDM sets, and I think you're the same way. And you know, I know there's a lot of DJs that have a problem with this specific thing where their sets are being recorded, but you know, when it comes down to it, you're getting your name out there even more, and so they are kind of helping. And in talking to Michael, I know that he said that he's gotten his account knocked down like what, 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, or something like that. And then he's already got like a copyright strike, I think, on his current channel right now, I think is what he said.
Right. So, I mean, it's kind of a fortunate situation. So I don't think he's giving up right yet, but I think he's kind of in the, kind of in that realm as far as like realizing that it's not entirely possible. And I guess it's mostly a YouTube thing, because YouTube makes it where, you know, the artists have the ability to do that, to take stuff down.
Yeah.
So, and I know he told it, like when we were talking to him, he told us that he wanted to figure out a way to monetize that type of stuff. And, you know, there's definitely like professional set recording and like video recording as far as like when these DJs are playing. And you always see the people that are like running around taking pictures. I mean, you know, maybe that could be something that Mr. Clean could do in the future. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool to meet him and talk to him and kind of get his experiences. And he travels all over Florida to see these sets. So shout out to him. Really cool to meet him. We might have him on the podcast one day. We actually got his contact information, so we might try to have him on and talk to him and see what all who all he's seen, and get some of his opinions, because he has been to more festivals than we have. Like, he's been to EDC he's been to EDC Vegas, and he's been to Ultra, and he's been to, I think, several other festivals and events. So yeah, really cool to meet him, and we might try to have him on one day. All right, shall we get to ranking?
Yeah, sure.
We actually have 2 rankings we need to do. So you've got, let's go through all these again. You've got Yokai, Swarm, Foreign Suspects, B2B SkyHye, B2B Two Kind, Bleep Bloop, Drezo, Ekali, and Rezz. What was your least favorite?
Well, I think it's kind of obvious at this point, but
it was Rezz, wasn't it? It was Rezz.
How in the world did you figure that out? No. I think it's kind of obvious, like I was saying. I think Yokai was probably the least favorite of the sets that I saw.
I think
I'll just leave it at that.
I have to agree with you. I'm sorry, Yokai. Which, again, go check out Yokai, because they've got lots of sets on SoundCloud. You know, again, unfortunately, it's just not really our cup of tea. And they were the first one, so they had the least amount of visuals. But you know, the sky's the limit. All right. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that was 7. So that was 7th. Who was your 6th?
Okay. This one might be a little bit challenging for me.
Yes, it's challenging for me too. But I think I know who I'm picking.
I might have to go with Bleep Bloop.
Ooh.
I might have to go with Bleep Bloop.
Not for me. I'm going with Drezo. So you say Bleep Bloop was your number 6. Mine was Drezo. Why Bleep Bloop? That was just the order in as far as what
it's like I'm saying, like my number 6 and 7, or my number 6 and 5 are kind of close call. So
who's your number 5?
I would probably have to say Drezo.
Okay, that's interesting because I was going to say Bleep Bloop is my number 5.
Yeah, I think it's a close call for those two.
It
that
is
positioning of set.
It is, and I would probably enjoy Drezo's music a little bit more, but I really, really liked Bleep Bloop's visuals, even though they got a little repetitive. And Bleep Bloop did a good job of implementing his logo in the visuals, which I also like. Drezo, never saw his logo once. Not even once.
Actually, that's a good thought. I don't know if I ever saw his. I don't remember seeing
it. It was not there. It was never there. So, like, you could have been, like, someone who didn't know any of these artists, and Drezo would have gotten up and you would have been like, who is this? The whole time, because it never showed his logo. So, yeah, sorry, that's my knockdown on Drezo. Drezo, show your logo more when you're playing. Very important. This is very, very important stuff. All right. Number 4 for you. Real quick, let's recap. Who we got left? We got Swarm, the 3-way B2B, Ekali, and Rezz.
So probably number 4 for me might have to be Swarm.
Ah, interesting. Disagree. My number 4 is the 3-way B2B. I enjoyed that music, but I think Swarm blew me away so hard that it's going up on my list a little bit.
I will agree with you on that. It blew me away, but when we get to my number 3 pick, I'll tell you the reason why I have it that way.
Okay. So your number 4 is Swarm. My number 4 was the Foreign Suspects, B2B SkyHye, B2B Two Kind.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your number 3?
Mine is the 3-way B2B.
Okay. And so that's mostly, I'm assuming it's mostly because you liked that. You liked the music they were playing.
Exactly. And like we've always been saying, well, like I've always been saying, they played songs that I've heard before that I like, and that is always a huge kicker for me. Swarm, I really never heard of Swarm before, but he did play some really good songs. Excuse me. He played some really good songs. But when it came to that B2B2B, they played songs that I had heard and that I really liked. So that was a kicker for me.
I agree with everything. I'm just saying Swarm blew me away harder than the B2B2B. So we're not agreeing on much, are we?
Well, I'm just saying, like, we have different views on those sets.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty true, and I mean I think that's a good thing. I think it would be boring if we had the same. We have the same opinions. Last 2. Who's your number 2? We got Ekali and Rezz left. Who's your number 2?
Okay. So I think that my number 2 will have to be commercial break. No, I'm kidding. I think that my number 2 will have to be Ekali.
Okay.
Because going off with obviously that leaves Rezz for number 1. I seeing Rezz for the second time. Yes, I have this has been my first time seeing Ekali for the first time. And don't get me wrong, his set was amazing. Like, it was really, really, really good. But going to my number 1 for Rezz, it's just you can't beat, having a louder set with songs that you love to hear and plus Pulsar Beam. That's like literally the trump card there. And just the overall aspect of Rezz's full-fledged show, the reason why we went to this, it's hard to not put that at number 1, in my opinion.
Well, I 100% disagree with you. I think I enjoyed Ekali more than I enjoyed Rezz. So I am putting Rezz at number 2 in my list and Ekali at number 1. Ekali was so hyped in my mind, and then he completely blew out my expectations. I'm putting him at number 1. And that is even with Rezz dropping Pulsar Beam and having all of the extra visuals that none of the artists had. I am saying right now, Ekali's music selection was so good. I was so impressed with it. I'm putting Ekali above Rezz as far as the night goes. All throughout Rezz's set, I kept telling myself, this is really great. I wish Ekali was still up there. Not even joking. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Rezz. I'm sorry, Cult of Rezz. I enjoyed the Ekali set more than Rezz. I am sorry.
I mean, yeah, you can say that.
That's my hot take for the night, and I am not just saying that just to say something controversial. I am 100% being honest. I enjoyed the Ekali set more than I did the Rezz set.
So another reason why I say that Rezz's set was better for me is because, so one, she played Pulsar Beam, which is a huge trump card, like I said, and two, Evan, you guessed it, she had lasers.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Lasers are so important to you.
Now, granted, I'm sorry, Rezz, but they were pretty crappy lasers. Like, they were really crappy. Well, but they were lasers, which is still a huge trump card. Which is another huge trump card for me.
It's funny that, like, we have these little things that are, like, so important to us. Like, for you, it's the lasers.
When those lasers came on for the first time, I was like, yeah, it's lasers.
Like, for you, it's the lasers. For me, it's the logos. But, it's funny, like, I don't think she had the lasers going until, like, almost halfway through her set.
I don't know if it was, I would say maybe like a third way into her set.
It was not at the beginning, though, that's for sure.
Right, yeah, I remember that. It's like a third of the way into her set, probably, is what I think. I can remember.
So there you go, that's a kind of a disappointing, well, not really disappointing, but, and again, I'm being 100% honest, like, I honestly enjoyed Ekali more than Rezz. And I loved Rezz's set. That's not to say I didn't like Rezz's set. I loved Rezz's set. But I loved Ekali's that much more. That little bit more. So that's kind of a recap of what happened that night. So now I think it's time for us to go to our full-fledged show rankings leaderboard. Now, obviously this is a podcast, so we can't like have a graphic that has the list, but I will kind of list out this ranking real quick for us. So we've seen what we call six what we call full-fledged shows. We've seen Excision, Snails, Odessa, Seven Lions, Datsik, and Zomboy. We put Zomboy at the bottom at 6.2. We gave Datsik a 6.4. Next was Seven Lions at an 8.1. Next was Odessa at an 8.4. Then Snails at an 8.8. And then Excision at 9.0. So now we have to add Rezz to this list. I don't think this is going to be easy because I think her show definitely beat Datsik and Zomboy, which that was actually just me that saw those. You didn't see those.
I was going to say, where are you getting these numbers from? Because I was never a part of those. So.
Actually, we talked about this in the podcast. So
okay. Well, I mean, for like the Datsik and the Zomboy and the Odessa.
Oh, okay, yeah, those are me. But one that you saw that I didn't see was Snails, and you gave Snails 8.8. Right. So we've got, let's take Datsik and Zomboy out, because I think she beat both of those. I think she's at least a 7.0. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's take those two out. So we've got Seven Lions at 8.1, we've got Odessa at 8.4, Snails at 8.8, and Excision at 9.0. What are you thinking? Don't ignore the list. What are you thinking for the actual out of 10 ranking?
I don't think that was an 8.
You don't think it was even an 8.0?
I think it was still in the 7 range.
Interesting. I was thinking...
Wait, hold on. I'm trying to think back of everything I've like taking. Maybe, okay. I would say possibly high 7.7s, low 8s is what I would say. Maybe the range.
I was thinking 8.0 because I don't know if I can put Rezz in front of 7 Lions. The thing about it is 7 Lions, I gave 7 Lions at 8.2, you gave 7 Lions at 8.0. So we averaged them out and got 8.1.
I would think, okay, are you ready to give our scores or not yet?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I would think I would have to give Rezz's show a
I think I have. Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking. I said I think I've got my score, but go ahead.
So I said I think I would have to give Rezz's full-fledged show a 7.8.
Really?
I think so.
I think I'm giving her an 8.0. So we average those out, and she gets a 7.9. Which is very weird that you give her a 7.8. Is that because you can't put it above 7 Lions?
I was debating on whether I should give it a 7.9 or 7.8, and I think a 7.8 is a better score. Because I like you said, I don't think I could put Rezz above 7 Lions.
That 7 Lion show was
definitely
awesome.
was not as good as Snails or as Excision, obviously, in my opinion. But it's just kind of, I think, basing it off the lists of the people that I've seen and that we've seen, I think it's just a slight, tiny bit not as good as 7 Lions was.
Well, I mean, the good thing is we're both agreeing that it was not as good as 7 Lions is full-fledged. Which, again, this is not like trying to say that this artist is better than that artist. Like, what we're talking about is the entire production of the show. That's why there's only so few of these that we've technically seen, because you have to take into consideration all of the equipment is coming from these tours. Like, it's not just, like the sound stage and like some lights. This is literally everything is going around. This is their entire stage. And so I think it's a good thing that we both agree that Rezz's show was not as good as 7 Lions. However, it is very worth mentioning this. 7 Lions has been in the game way longer than Rezz. So if you think about where Rezz is right now, and how long it's taken 7 Lions to get to the spot that he's at, where is Rezz in like 5 years? Where is Rezz in 5 years? Because she has blown up over the past 2 years. Completely blown up.
Oh yeah, I expect her to be like 3 times as big as she is now than in like 5 years, to be honest with you.
I mean, I could definitely see something similar. And obviously, if that happens, then the show is going to be the same, where the show is blowing up and becoming more of a big production as well. So, yeah, I mean, all that being said, it was a super fun night. All the sets obviously were really fun to listen to. Whenever is an EDM concert not fun to listen to? Let's be honest. Come on, let's be honest.
Sure.
But, yeah, that is Rezz, and in our rankings, again, she goes to a 7.9. So she's above above Dat6 show, but below 7 Lions. So yeah, that's that. Is there anything else we need to talk about on the Rezz show?
No, I think that's it.
All right then, everyone have a good night.
See y'all later.
Baseline drop. baseline drop.